really poor lighting, but I'll find a place in this house to do it. Our house is just real dark, all cabiny and woodsy, and fits our personalities. Just kidding. So anyhow, I went to the doctor today. What a fiasco. So I go in, it's my first time using Medicare and my supplemental, and I, as much as I pay for Medicare and supplemental, I thought for sure that it'd be smooth sailing now that I'm over 65, but no. Oh, that'll be a $35 copay. What? What? Got out the old debit card, paid the $35, sat for half an hour, I go back, and I really like my GI doctor. I do. He's great. So he sat there, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "Well, I think because of the numbers and the colonoscopy that we did, and blah, 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 I think you have ulcerative colitis." I knew it. I knew I did. And so he starts going over the different ways to combat this, since it's something I'm going to have the rest of my life. It's an autoimmune disease. And, excuse me, he talks about prednisone for 4 weeks that will help put me into remission. And then there was a drug, I can't remember the name of it, began with an M, but it's for autoimmune diseases, specifically ulcerative colitis. And so he said, "I'll call that in, but if your insurance isn't going to cover it, then call me back and I'll change that to just a basic autoimmune disease drug." I was like, "Okay, fine. What's one more pill? You're getting old." Actually, I was quite hearing somebody say you've got ulcerative colitis is just, it takes a bit to absorb, but it just is what it is. I mean, I just have to do the best I can with what I got where I am, right? So I go to check out, and she was like, "Your account's locked." And I'm like, "My account at the GI? I just paid $35. She said, "No, the hospital system account is locked." And I was like, "Well, why?" And she's like, "Oh, well, there was $15 you owed to the hospital for blood work in 2021. I'm like, "Oh, yes, by all means, lock my account on that one." So I had to go back over to the hospital, pay the $15, come back, get my date for my next appointment, which is in November. And he said, "Well, I'll just call in your medication." So I get this nice little text from Walmart saying, "Oh, well, your account or your medication is ready to be picked up. Total amount is $245. So I called him up. I was like, which medication would be the most expensive?" And so it was the one that started with an M. So I had to call back the doctor's office and say, "Look, this isn't working for me." And they were like, "Well, did your insurance not cover it?" I said, "Well, they covered $525 of it, but not the other $240." And so they ended up calling in another one. It worked out fine. I'm still just a bit pouty about the whole ulcerative colitis thing. But I have mild to moderate, so it's not severe. And I hope that we have caught it at a time where it doesn't become more severe. I mean, I hope to have like 20, 30 good years left in me. I mean, we have longevity in our family, and I want to be active, and I want to be healthy, and I don't want to be put down by anything. But as my mother-in-law and I were talking about today, God is in total control, and I'm just going to ask Him to get me through whatever I need to get through, and do whatever I need to do, and enjoy what I can. So, we're over that hump update. So, let me tell you about the 5 next things on my 65 and 65 list. These are rather mundane, I guess, but like I said, nothing on the list is really big, like, you know, sailing around the world or something. But the first one is number 6 would be to carve a spoon. This was on my 55 and 55, and I never got around to doing it. And I think it would be so neat to just take a piece of wood, and I'd love to do it from just a piece of wood from our property, and there's plenty of wood, and just sit down and, I guess, whittle would be it, maybe. Um, a spoon out of it. I know you'd have to carve a dish and create the. I don't know. I'm going to watch some YouTube videos on it. It's on my list. Um, I've got to get a nice whittling knife. I had a really awesome pink camo knife, and when my nephew Dylan got married, remember Dylan? Everybody loves Dylan. Well, he got married at a courthouse, and so when I went through the line, I forgot I had my little camo knife in my handbag, and so they pulled it. And so when we were leaving the courthouse, I went up to the officer who they had given it to, and I said, "Can I have my pink camo knife back?" And he was like, "Oh, we don't have those things anymore." And he had glanced down, and I said, "You're looking at it right now. Please, can I have my pink camo knife back?" What do I look like? Just, do I look like I am going to take a pink camo knife about the size of my finger and go on a slashing mode through the courthouse? Wouldn't give it back. And I've not replaced it since. I've never found another pink camo knife. Don't even get me started on that one. So anyhow, the next one is bow and arrow. When Jeremy was in Boy Scouts, he was in Boy Scout camp. Well, I had taken he and Jamie to Boy Scout camp, and one of the things that they did was bow and arrow, and I had a chance to try it, and I loved it. My son Jamie has a bow and arrow and targets, and I think I'm going to ask, beg, plead him to like show me some tips when we go down there sometime. I think it would be really a fun thing to learn and do. The only thing I remember though is that I had bruises up and down my arm from when the bows the bow smacked me. So I'll have to maybe wear a wrist cover this time. The other one was also on my 55 and 55 list, and that was to bake a pie. And I don't mean just going to buy a Betty Crocker or Pillsbury crust or whatever. My mom always made the best, flakiest pie crust. She wasn't that great of a cook, but she could sure make a pie. And I have her recipe, and I've been dying to try it, and I just haven't for whatever reason. And I think it's a fear of failure, perfectionism at its finest. But anyhow, I'm really going to try that this year. I'm going to do apple, and I don't want apple pie filling from a can. I want to do chop the apples and do the sugar and the butter and all the things to make an apple pie like my mom did, because they were delicious. So the next thing is to do something special with my son Jeremy and his family. I don't even know what that will be. I'm hoping maybe I can convince him to go on the Tweetsy or something. Who knows? The beach. They have a hard time coordinating things with 4 children, and Jeremy's got a job where he works a lot, and then Kathy works part-time while Jeremy watches the children, one of those things. So I hope we can figure out something between now and next May 2nd to be able to do that would be fun for all of us to do. And the last thing is, I don't know if you remember, in 2018 we went to Scotland, and I have yet to print out the pictures and done a scrapbook of our trip to Scotland. And it was like one of the highlights of my life. And so, yeah, I really want to get that done this year. It's something I want Chris and I to sit down and go over, because he took the majority of the pictures, and he took multiples of a lot of things. And so I think we really need to sit down and figure out the pages. I want to do what's that thing, Snapfish, where you can get the books printed out. I know my friend Kathy has done it a couple times before, so I think that's what I want to do with that. So that's the next 5 things on my 65 and 65 list, my medical update. And so what's for dinner tonight? Well, my friend Julie was going to Aruba for her son's wedding. And she called me the day before she left and she said, look, there's these people you do not know, but they are on vacation and they forgot to cancel their Hello Fresh box. They were going to give it to me, and when I told them I was going to be in Aruba, they said, well, do you know anybody who might want it? And she said, oh, yeah, I think I do. And so she called me and she said, are you available on Wednesday to pick up a Hello Fresh box at this address? They can find out when the box is coming to them on Ring doorbell, and they'll just text you when it shows up. And I'm like, free food? Yeah. So tonight I think we're gonna have sunflower parmesan crusted chicken and a mixed green salad. So yeah, pretty excited about that one. Free meal. So anyhow, that's my day. If any of you have experience with any kind of autoimmune disease, if you want to reach out to me, that would be so great. You can just private message me or whatever. I'm totally new to this whole thing. I don't know the do's and don'ts or the ins and outs or whatever. I guess maybe there's a learning curve to it. So anyhow, whenever you're watching this, I hope you have a fine day all day long.